Hi and welcome back. My name is Erin Johnson. I'm the founder of Artworks Fine Art Studio. It was recently National Panda Day, and so today, in honor of that, we are going to be working from a photograph of a panda. And all you will need for this exercise, again, is a pencil, an eraser, any eraser, and a few pieces of paper. Let's get started. So before we get started on our actual drawing, it's very important to warm up when you're doing a drawing. I relate it to sports a lot. You want to warm up your muscles before getting started on your final picture. To warm up, what I like to do is just start drawing some simple shapes. Maybe some ovals, some circles, some squares, some triangles. And as you can see, I go over lines multiple times just to kind of get a feel and for that shape. Just have fun with it. Draw different shapes, some rectangles. They don't have to be perfect. You are just, again, getting ready and warming up your hand muscles. One little tip that you can do is take a piece of scrap paper and rest it on the paper so you don't get any pencil marks on your hand. Another little thing you can do is what's called the infinity drill. This really gets you warmed up well, along with any odd kind of shapes that you feel like you want to present. As I have discussed in past lessons, it's very important to approach a picture using simple shapes. And when looking at a photograph, a lot of the times that first shape is your horizon line because it really places the object where you want it. So the first thing I'm going to do is break up the composition by adding that line. The horizon line is the line of where the sky and the ground meet, or the wall and the floor, and it sets your object onto a surface. So if I'm looking at the panda, the next biggest shape in here would be that head, and it's almost this big oval of a head. They've got cute faces. Then I'm going to look and I kind of see, I can either go into the snout or I could go into the back, and I'm going to actually go into the body of that panda, right in there. Then I see this line that he's kind of leaning on in here, and I'm going to add that in. Then I'm going to go into the snout and find this nice big oval kind of shape in here. And then possibly the ears. And again, you don't need to be working with me right now. This is just to show you the simple shapes within the panda. We're going to work together in just a minute. I see next these shapes in here and in here. And the nose. Maybe a little line there to help guide me. And I think that's pretty good. I am actually going to draw on the lines of where the color change happens within the panda, just for my reference for my drawing later. Also, maybe a little shape in here for the paw. Okay, are we ready to get started? So now we're going to go ahead and start our drawings. And like I said before, we're starting with the horizon line. And in this image, I don't usually have the horizon line go all the way across because I'm tracing over the lines that are there. But when I draw it on my piece of paper, I like to have that line go all the way across, pretending like you can see it. So what I'm going to do is start here. And again, my pieces of paper are pretty much the same size. So I'm kind of going to measure and see the horizon line over here starts about there. But the horizon line on this side actually starts a bit higher. So if it's here, it's going to start a little bit up from that. So I'm going to have it start right about here. Now if I connect those guys, I have my horizon line. And again, it's not perfect. It's just a guide. We're going to start off simple and then we're going to slowly get more detailed and more complex. But this line is really going to help me. If I look at the top of this big head, it goes a little bit above that horizon line, probably in about, a little bit to the right of center on this piece of paper. So it's going to be in about here. The bottom of that comes in probably about here and then goes over. And And I need room for my paw over there, and then it kind of comes back to here. So if I go in and draw in this shape, I kind of have it. Now, I noticed that I might have gone a little low here. So I'm going to come back in and erase the line that I don't want. We all make mistakes, right? It's not a big deal. That's why we draw as lightly as we possibly can. And from there, we're going to move on. I'm going to get in the body next, right? This big line back here. I'm going to start at the top of the head about here. That's where the line starts. And the line stops a little bit below the horizon line, so probably about somewhere like that. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to move it up and swing it down, right? It's got a little bump there. Then I'm going to move on to the other arm over here. Actually, I'm going to do the arm and then the ear. So I'm going to have this arm. It starts about here and it goes off the page about there. So it's kind of got a curve to it, right? Now by adding that first, I can see where the ear goes because the ear touches the arm and it touches the head. So I'm going to take the ear, starts about here, goes above the horizon line, and then comes back down and hits the arm just about there. Do you see that? Next, I'm going to move into the face a little bit. So I'm going to get this big snout in there. Now the snout comes up to about here. If I were to compare it to the imaginary horizon line here, it's still below that. So I'm going to have it in here, and then it comes nice and wide around. And it's a little wider at the bottom than it is at the top. And again, if you have these little mistakes, not a big deal. We're just going to erase those. And sometimes it's going to take a couple tries. It's not a big deal. Then I'm going to move on to this ear. It starts right about here and it comes into about here, and it's a big kind of mountain. There we go. Notice how this ear is a little bit looking bigger than this ear. The reason is it's a little bit closer to us. Things further away tend to get smaller. So let's keep that in mind for future drawings as well. Next, I'm going to move on to the eyes. Do you see the eyes in here? They start on the snout about here, and it's a little, looks like a big bean to me. Then I'm going to move on to this eye, again, like a skinny bean. And notice it's important to see where they hit on the snout. This line is a little bit lower. Then I'm going to move on to the nose. It's got a little point here where the mouth comes down, and he's smiling a little bit, right? And then, you know what? I'm going to have these eyes in here. He looks a little funny without those little eyes. Maybe a little soft angle like that. Next, I'm going to get in the arm, where the black and the white come together. And that's kind of a shape like this, and then goes into the head. And then this goes into the bottom of that snout. This goes here. You know what? I have another big shape down here I almost forgot about. And my paper actually goes below the image. So I'm going to pretend like it starts a little bit even below that, come from the bottom of the paper. Now notice how it doesn't touch. There's a tiny little space in here. I don't know if you can tell because of the dark marker and the dark fur, but there is a tiny space in there. And then this kind of curves off, leaving room for the last shape, the paw. So I'm going to get the big paw kind of in here and the arm. And that's a pretty good start. I think this is pretty accurate. The head might be a little bit bigger, but this guy is looking really, really cute. You can start to find some of the details, like in the nose. And I'm going to start erasing some of those lines that I don't really need, right? So inside the ear, I'm going to erase that line. I'm going to erase the line inside the head. The top of the snout in here would not have a line. But you know what does have a line is kind of where the eye meets the snout, because the eyes will be a darker shade. but we don't have a line in here. I'm going to keep that chin line. Erase over here a little bit. Kind of any mistakes I made, I'm going to start erasing. I'm going to erase in the ear here. And I'm going to just soften this. I'm not going to fully erase it. I'm just going to soften it. Now, we can start with more details. So one thing I think that you should probably think about adding are some lines of fur to separate where the black and the white come together, or even where kind of the fur, meets fur. It will just kind of give you a nice, more realistic line. I'm going to keep his smile. I think that's super cute. Just add a little bit of fur on that chin. Maybe bring the chin actually a little bit lower. I realize it goes a little bit lower than what's there. Just kind of shade in some of the nose here. And then what I'm going to do is actually erase the lines on the panda. By erasing the lines on the panda, I can get a better idea of all the little details that I want to add and see the full image for what it is. So I noticed some other little details I can add are little kind of nails if you want to, the paws. I'm kind of adding more fur in here, a little bit more fur down in here. The nose is somehow bothering me here. I think I made it a little bit too wide in there. So I'm going to shorten that a little bit and erase it. Whoops. It's looking a little bit better. Kind of darken in here. This goes a little further. Maybe adding a little fur at the where the nose meets. And again, you can kind of take this. Oh, I noticed the mouth kind of comes a little bit more like that. More at an angle. You can take this as far as you want it. Feel free to color in. I'm going to have this line in here. I'm slowly kind of building it up. And the ear comes in a little bit, and you get the idea. But have fun. Bring out any of these details that you really want to bring out. You can shade in the black areas if you want to, or use colored pencil or marker. Anything that you have at home. Clean up any lines, and you'll have your finished picture. I might continue to work on this on my own, as you should at home. Have fun, and please share with us. We would love to see your work on Instagram at Artworks Classes.